I think that what you're about to learn right now is the reason why people are disenchanted with capitalism. I think this is why people are annoyed or even pissed off at how capitalism has gone. And I think this is the reason a lot of people are thinking, you know what, we really should be more socialistic. And I'm going to tell you right now, if people fundamentally understood the original vision of Adam Smith, they wouldn't even be talking about going to socialism, because they would realize we've never fully practiced the original theory of free market capitalism, which has a social element to it that is critical to its flourishing. Okay? So with all that as background, let me give you this lecture. Okay, so Adam Smith wrote a book, right? He wrote a book called The Wealth of Nations. Okay? And he writes this book in 1776. And in essence, this book is basically talking about there's a division of labor and everybody has a different job that they do in the society. He talks about the famous example of the butcher, the baker, the brewer. Okay? And he says, look, in the village, people need food. And so the butcher wakes up in the morning and he thinks, you know what? I'm going to be the butcher. And I'm going to butcher the cows and I'm going to create steaks and create different kinds of meat products, whatever. And that's what I'm going to do. And why does the butcher wake up at 4 a.m. to go and feed the village? Does he do it because he's a nice guy? No. He does it because of self-interest. Okay? So the butcher wakes up in the morning and he thinks, well, I got to make a living, and so I'm going to be the butcher out of self-interest. And then Adam Smith says, well, there's also this other dynamic going on called the invisible hand, which is how people know, well, like what job they should do, like what does the market kind of need. And so the baker wakes up in the morning and he's like, well, I kind of always wanted to be a butcher, but like that guy's already doing it, and there's only so many people in the village that need a steak, but maybe they need more bread. Maybe we can grind some of the steak up and make a hamburger or a cheeseburger or something, and well, that's what I'll do. I'll be the baker. But does the baker wake up in the morning thinking, I can't wait to make bread for everybody? No. He wakes up in the morning thinking, I want to make money for myself and my family. And so the baker is motivated by self-interest to wake up. And he thinks, well, I got to figure out what the market needs, etc. So the invisible hand guides him what to do. And then the brewer gets up in the morning and he's thinking, well, damn it, I wanted to be the baker. Like I wanted to, but I can't be the butcher. I can't be the baker. The village doesn't need that. What do they need? I know. My uncle used to make this kind of bubbly drink. He used to act kind of funny after he drank it, but I didn't really like the taste of it. Well, some of it I liked. But, it's kind of an interesting thing. Maybe I'll do that. And so he becomes a brewer. So the brewer wakes up in the morning thinking, I'm going to make beer for everybody because I'm a nice guy. No. He wakes up in the morning thinking, I got to make a living, but in order for me to make a living, I got to kind of do what the village needs. So the invisible hand guides me to become the brewer, the baker, the butcher, the baker, the brewer. And so none of those people wake up in the morning thinking I'm out to just take care of everyone. They wake up thinking I'm interested in serving myself. Yeah, that seems to be true. It seems to be how the free market economy works, that if I just take care of me, it all works out. Except for a huge problem. Nobody ever talks about the other book that Adam Smith wrote. Okay? And this is critical. He wrote a book called The Theory of Moral Sentiments. Okay? And that's what this book is talking about. This is a professor of economics from Stanford. It's a great book, by the way. And he's literally talking about how he studied economics his whole life. And only late in his tenure as a professor did he discover Adam Smith's first book, which was not written in 1776. It was written in 1759. Okay? How many years? 17 years earlier. This was his first book. Okay? And this economist says, I didn't know about the first book, and neither does anyone else, in my opinion, that are economists really talk about the theory of moral sentiments, which is really important because in this book, Adam Smith basically says, well, let me back up. What I'm getting at is that Adam Smith, the father of Western free market economics, who was an economist, before he was an economics professor, was an ethics professor. He taught ethics, okay? You can almost see the sort of ivory tower business battle right here, right? Ethics and economics. You can see the evolving ethos, ethics and economics. It's right here. It's right there. And so Adam Smith basically says, look, we are moral beings because we can put ourselves in the shoes of another person and we can experience the impact of our actions on others. We can almost look at a situation impartially and just look at the impact of behavior and see where the harm happens and be empathic and connected, okay? We are ethical and moral beings almost before. Well, he's saying basically there's this deep ethical, moral aspect to human beings, and that's what makes society work. Now, I'll fill in these two dots in just a second, but here's the big piece I want to give you. As a culture in the West, we've been following Adam Smith only half of his thinking, and we wind up in the late 80s in an iconic moment where Michael Douglas is saying on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange in the movie Wall Street, which I thought was a fabulous movie, and I love Michael Douglas. I think he's fantastic. But anyway, he says in this movie, famous scene, he says, greed is good. Greed is good. And we all bought it up. I remember when I was young, like my dream was to become like a multimillionaire by the time I was 21 or something. I was like all in the entrepreneurial make money mindset. That was like the main thing I thought mattered. And like I was like, dude, Michael Douglas, this is a great movie. Greed is good. I never even thought about it. And I think a lot of people in the capitalistic mindset, which I have no problem with, especially after I finished telling you this, they think, yeah, greed is good. The ethics of capitalism is greed. Okay? Yeah, you want to know why we think that? We think the ethics of capitalism is greed because we have interpreted the terms self-interest to be selfishness. Okay? If I take care of my stuff, I just worry about me. Screw you. I don't need to worry about you. I just worry about me. The invisible hand will just work it all out. Okay? And so I have no obligation to you other than just like obey the law, make money. That's all I have to do. What does that sound like? Stockholder theory. Okay? That's all I have to do. And so greed is good because self-interest is selfishness. No. Wrong. Incorrect. Self-interest is not selfishness. That's not the definition of this term. And how do you know that? You know that that's not the definition of this term when you go back and understand Adam Smith's first book. Because here's what he said. Adam Smith said that we've got to be able to see ourselves in others so that we get the impact of our action, because that is the glue of the society. That's the thread work that makes the social tapestry. Okay? And so in the end, what he's saying is that you have to look at other people's interests to be a full human being. Well, that's interesting. Do you think the guy that came up with this idea that we really need to be thinking of others to be a fully moral and good creature, good human being, do you think that guy wrote a book 17 years later that the whole economy works off of being a total selfish jerk? You think that that's what he did? No, that's not what he did. Okay? So, and I'll prove it to you. When anything happens in business, right? In order for you to make money, what has to happen? Think about it. In order for you to make money, what has to happen? Other people need to buy your product or service. How do you get other people to buy your product or service? You have to provide a value that's compelling to them, that they feel attracted to, and they willingly and voluntarily choose to give you their money. And so in business, the number one thing you have to do to make money is to be focused on how can I serve other people's interest. And that's the key to the whole thing. The full picture of the model, okay, is that for us to be successful in business, we're motivated by our own self-interest, not selfishness. Self-interest, I need to make money. But how do I make money? I do it by serving you. And that's the difference between motivation and operation of a business. Motivation to make money, operation of the business to cause the transaction. And so now we finish this whole piece. Okay, so what is the invisible hand then? Which is going to be corollary. It's going to be a corollary here. What is the invisible hand? You know, I used to ask my students, like, if I were to just like draw a picture, okay, here's the invisible hand. That looks ridiculous, right? But like, this is the magic hand that runs the whole market. Like, wouldn't you kind of laugh at me? And yet this term, invisible hand, is given a concrete reality. I'll give you a word, reification, to treat an abstract thing as a reality. We have reified the concept of invisible hand into our theory of economics to make this as real as like a table or a chair. You know, what is the invisible hand? I will tell you what the invisible hand is. Okay? The invisible hand is market empathy. It's the ability to feel what other people need. Okay? In other words, the butcher, the baker, the brewer. We already talked about it. Okay? The baker and the brewer wake up in the morning and they think to themselves, well, I want to make money, self-interest, but I have to serve others. And the invisible hand is what's going to guide my activity to be able to engage in commerce based on what other people need. How do I know what people need? Market empathy. My attention is not on serving me. My attention is on serving you. And that is the true capitalism. That is the true original theory of capitalism. Original free market economics is about me serving you. Business is about service. It's about a value for value exchange. How can I get into your world to understand what you need that I could provide, and then I provide it and cause the value for value exchange so that I make money off of serving you. I satisfy my needs by serving and satisfying your needs. That is what capitalism is really about. It is not about just converting every natural resource into money. It is not about just making people work to extract money out of them. All this shit that Marx was upset about, sorry, I have to just let it out. All this stuff that Marx is upset about is completely handled in this model. When people really pay attention to what other people need and are out to be of service, and that's the ethos of business, the world works beautifully. And I have a great term I want to give you for this, okay? So when I am living to serve you, and in my serving you, I get my needs met, this is called enlightened self-interest. Okay, and that's the world we need to go to. That's a world where everybody is satisfied and business does not become some corrupt institution. I'm not putting it down, but as we talked about in the evolving ethos model, it is business actually pushing on social levers in a way that is harmful and not balanced. That, I think, is the problem, and the very epicenter of it is this idea that greed is good. No, greed is not good, and greed is never part of capitalism, not the original model. The original model is enlightened self-interest, and that's what Adam Smith said. That's our lesson for this week.